If you never had a father, this video is for you. I come from a privileged background. Don't get me wrong, I didn't grow up rich, but I did grow up wealthy. And I mean that in the sense that I grew up having something that very few people seem to have. And that is a strong, reliable father figure in my life, a consistent father figure in my life. That's something that even my dad didn't have growing up. And if you're watching this video, I'm going to assume that you didn't have that either. So in this video, I want to share 3 life principles that my dad taught me that have actually impacted me in my life. So I'm not just going to share some ambiguous principles that sound good. I'm going to share practical principles that I have used in my life time and time again to get to the position that I'm currently in. That said, the first principle that my dad taught me, that he instilled within the depth of my subconscious mind, is business before pleasure. Business before pleasure, what does that mean? Well, it's pretty straightforward. You prioritize business before pleasure, meaning you master the art of delayed gratification. I'm going to give you an example from my childhood. When I was growing up, obviously I went to school like everyone else, and I had homework like everyone else. And I hated homework. Even to this day, I don't even like to talk about homework because I hated it so much. And I have memories of literally sitting there at the desk crying because I didn't want to do it. Now, mind you, I was a straight A student, but that doesn't mean I loved school, and I especially did not love homework. But every time I would get home and I would think about not doing my homework to do something else, like play video games or go out with my friends or do literally anything else that would have been more enjoyable than doing my homework, I would think about what my dad said, because he didn't have to say this too many times. He would say, business before pleasure. And those words would reverberate in the back of my mind. And so what I would do was I would get home, I would do my homework as soon as I got home, before I turned on the Xbox, before I stepped outside with my friends, rode around on our bikes or whatever. I would do my homework. And as soon as I would finish my homework, I would be free to indulge in as much pleasure as I wanted to. And thus I learned the art of delayed gratification. And this one principle has served me to this day. Because to this day, every day, especially now that I'm self-employed and I work from home, I have to consciously decide to prioritize the things that actually matter in my life over the things that don't matter. Meaning I have to think in terms of what is going to create the greatest benefit overall instead of the thing that will make me feel better in the moment. As a matter of fact, me filming this video is an example of that. My girlfriend and I just started watching a new Netflix show yesterday, and there is nothing that I would love to do more than watch that Netflix show right now. But I'm not going to watch the Netflix show. I'm not even going to open the Netflix app and read the synopsis for the next episode until I finish these videos, meaning until I film, edit, and upload this video as well as the other 2 videos that I'm filming today, because business comes before pleasure. Delayed gratification does not mean that you eliminate gratification altogether. There's plenty of room for both. There's plenty of room for business and pleasure. And I would recommend that you implement both. But always prioritize business before pleasure. Meaning, don't procrastinate. Stop procrastinating. You procrastinating is the only thing keeping you from where you want to go in life. You have to put business before pleasure if you want your business to allow you to indulge in higher levels of pleasure. Business before pleasure. Now, the next life principle that my dad instilled deep within the depths of my soul is, if you want more freedom, you have to take more responsibility. Now, what does that mean? All right, now we're starting to dive a little bit deeper. What does this mean? Well, when you were a kid, I want you to think about when you were a kid and you were with your friends and maybe your parents yelled at you or you got in trouble or something like that, and you told yourself, man, I can't wait until I can be an adult and I don't have to deal with this anymore. Why did you think that as a kid? The reason why you thought that as a kid was because you wanted more freedom. But I'm going to assume that you're maybe between 18 and 24 years old. I could be a little bit wrong, but let's assume you're between 18 and 24. If you are, then the chances are the reality of life is beginning to hit you. Meaning, you realize that, wow, I actually have to pay bills. I actually have to do things that I don't want to do just to exist. And that right there can make you want to go back to being a child again. It's the cycle of life. Children want to be adults and adults want to be children. As a matter of fact, side note, that's something else that my dad has taught me. He taught me that as an adult, the goal is really just to live like a kid again. But the key is you have to understand that if you want the freedom that you have as an adult, it comes with the responsibility of being an adult. Because when you have more responsibility, that means that you're in control of your life. You're in control of your decisions. Therefore, you're in control of your destiny. You get to decide how much freedom you're going to have based on the decisions that you make right now. That is the responsibility that you have as an adult. It's pretty much the only responsibility you have as an adult. You have the responsibility of making high quality decisions that will give you more freedom over time. So for example, with me deciding to put business before pleasure right now, I am securing my freedom. And ideally, the freedom of my children and their children and their children after that, because of decisions that I am choosing to make. I am accepting responsibility for my reality. And when you're self-employed, if you want to be self-employed, you have to be radically responsible, meaning that you have to take accountability, take responsibility for every moment of every day. You have to take constant inventory and conduct regular audits of how you're spending your time. How much responsibility am I taking on? Because the amount of responsibility that you are choosing to take on is directly proportional to the amount of freedom that you will experience in your life. So, in other words, the more responsible you are for your business, meaning the things that you need to do every day, doesn't necessarily mean you have to start a business, but the more responsible you are for your daily tasks that need to be done, the more freedom you will have to indulge in pleasure. This is why CEOs make so much more money than warehouse workers. It's not because the work is harder, it's because they have more responsibility. And because they have so much more responsibility, they have a lot more financial freedom as a result. It's common sense. Responsibility is directly correlated with freedom. If you want more freedom, accept more responsibility. You can't have one without the other. I learned that the hard way. Now, the next life principle that my dad instilled within the essence of my being is never tell yourself no. Let them tell you no. Now, this right here took me a very long time to actually put into practice because as a child, I was absolutely petrified of rejection, especially social rejection. But once I turned 19 and I dropped out of college and I began to take my life into my own hands, once again, choosing to accept more responsibility, I realized that rejection isn't really real unless you make it real by telling yourself no. You see, when I started making YouTube videos, this is actually how I got over my fear of rejection. I started making YouTube videos right after I dropped out of college, and none of the videos were doing well. As a matter of fact, I didn't have a 100,000 viewed video until about 13 months into my YouTube journey, and that is 13 months of consistently posting, shouting myself out on Snapchat, going on Omegle and asking people one by one to subscribe to my channel, and being told no, countless times by the way. I realized that if I don't post these videos, if I don't follow this dream that I have, I am guaranteeing rejection. Because the only person whose approval actually matters is yours. Again, you take responsibility, you get freedom. I realized that if I quit YouTube because I don't think I'm good enough, because other people don't think I'm good enough, well, that means that I am rejecting myself. It doesn't matter what they think. There are still people to this day who think I'm not good enough, and that's fine, because I know I'm good enough, and that's why I'm here talking to this camera. And those people don't even have their face as their profile picture. It's because I learned to not tell myself no. Do I still struggle with this at times? Yes, of course, I'm human. But at the very least, I'm aware of it. And when you become aware of this fact, you become free. because you are taking responsibility for how you see yourself. You're no longer putting your self-worth in the hands of other people who truly don't actually know you all that well. And because of that, you experience the freedom to act in accordance with whatever dreams you came into this life with.